There's a certain style of uniqueness when it comes to street circuit racing here, when it comes to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. It in itself doesn't feel necessarily like a street circuit. It's got a character and a flair to it which feels almost independent of that nature. Maybe it's because that this circuit has been run for over 30 years, and this has been a place which time and again everybody comes to races and says this is the place where we want to go out and do battle. At the same time though, it's got a nature to it which doesn't feel like its flow is a street circuit, a traditional little bit of a straight followed by a 90-degree left or right hand corner. Yes, it's got many chicanes, but by no means would you say that they are trademarked as traditional. This, of course, being a track which has seen many a reasonable race come through, and even quite a few more that have been even more than reasonable in recent memory. This is where the iRacing Grand Prix Series finds itself today. Coverage brought to you, of course, by SimSpeed TV. My name's Shakespeare, joined alongside by Jay Kennedy here as we sit in the heart of the St. Lawrence River.
Hello everyone. Yeah, it's going to be a very, very good show, isn't it, Sperry? I'm looking forward to this. It's always been a great track for racing in this series. And we're going to see a little bit of an extra element to this race as well, with fuel conservation being a part of this one as well.
Oh, it certainly will, and we'll keep an eye on that as things go. So we'll move on in. You can see Buffalo, Toronto, Boston, Detroit, and Cleveland, but we are heading into Montreal, Quebec, here in the heart of the French-speaking part of Canada, as we zoom on in to the St. Lawrence River and that massive strip you can see there where the rowing was held for the Montreal Olympic Games. But the key is the circuit that is around that, the Lapangle hairpin, the Senna S, the Casino Straight, and then those three chicanes, turns 3 and 4, 6 and 7, 8 and 9, which make up the opening two sectors of the lap. A very technical middle sector, which is partnered up with a very, very fast and flowing final sector with two DRS zones.
Yeah, and the two DRS zones flow into each other as well, which is a little bit of a unique side of this circuit as well. So looking forward to seeing how that plays out and what we will see with those throughout the race. And as we were saying too, fuel conservation is going to be a key to this race as well. So if you go full pace, you're not going to make it home on fuel. So making sure you save fuel and use those DRS zones to your advantage by drafting with someone else and you know, saving fuel underneath that draft or with that draft will be the key to making it home and potentially a good or a bad result.
And of course, that is what we are going to be finding out here today at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. But let's get a representative of what it is like to go around this place. We're about 4 minutes away from the start of racing action. We'll take a look with our virtual racing school hot lap here around the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and more importantly, a legendary driver along with it. Martin Cronquet will be the one behind the wheel as we take this fantastic drive around this circuit, flying about towards turn numbers 1 and 2, the Senna S, the left, followed by the right-hand bend here, this 90-degree right. Very tough on the run. On the start of the race, it's very easy to run into each other as that small right makes it very difficult to put the power down before you hit 3 and 4 down the hill through this chicane. Be very careful with that wall on the outside. You fly immediately through 6, and suddenly it's this next chicane that comes along, this middle sector, of course, the Sebastian Vettel chicane, for all those who remember 2011, and that wonderful 6-hour epic that we all got to watch. 8th gear before jamming down to 3rd for this right-left chicane, which comes along next, and it's single file through there. Very tough to go too wide at that section. Before you now take this left, that's where Robert Kubica on the right had his big accident, but the Lapangle hairpin is going to be one of the prime places to get it done today before the power gets immediately thrown back up. And Jay, one final chicane with a wall of champions there on the right-hand side as you exit.
And it will take a few with it today too, because it's just the nature of this section of track. You have to be aggressive to be fast, but if you're too aggressive, you're going to find yourself in that wall very, very easily. But doesn't Cronquet make it look so easy? He's a freak. I mean, we know he's a freak, but he's a freak.
It's effortless the way that he does it, and after speaking with many interviews with Martin Cronquet, he's the sort of person who goes, I really just don't know how I do it. If I can do it, then everyone can do it. He's got that sort of mentality to him at the moment, with qualifying currently still underway. Couple of drivers looking to set some times, and Well, Matteo Ugolotti's just come across the line for his first flying lap with about 2 minutes remaining here in the session. He is on pole by what is now a 10th and a half at this moment in time almost. But Jay, championship standings as things go, Matteo Ugolotti's got 4 wins out of 4, and they are for a reason.
100%. He's just been dominant in this series, and even the races that he hasn't had a perfect race, he still looked dominant. So it's really a battle of the rest. Martinez fairly clear in P2, but the battles below that, very, very tight. That third on back battle is well and truly open with about 6 or 7 drivers well in contention for that third place at this stage.
Yeah, you've got Diogo Oliveira currently holding that third position. Matt Wood and Bradley Philpott effectively both have a race in the back pocket, with Philpott also getting a very bad non-finish at Phillip Island to boot. So there are a lot of drivers who can go out there and really score those results. Bartosic there in 5th might actually be in a little bit of trouble in this race, and I'll explain why on the starting grid. But Jay, you know, Ugolotti, Oliveira, Matt Wood, the top 3. But keep an eye out on who's in P4 having a great qualifying. Samuli Väyrynen not doing too bad, as Ugolotti just found an extra 10th and a half just to say, I've got pace.
He is absolutely dominant, is Ugolotti, and doesn't look like too many more are out on laps at this stage. John Pat Kelly has just gone out and done another lap. It looks like everyone is done. Everyone has finished their laps.
They certainly are. So we're going to take ourselves over to the starting grid then here. Matteo Ugolotti, the Italian, once again on pole position, 1 minute 12.508, ahead of Diogo Oliveira by just about a quarter of a second. It's Matt Wood who starts this one in 3rd, with Samuli Väyrynen alongside him in 4th position. Jorge Martinez, 2nd in the championship. Consistent finisher. That's why he's up there. He is currently in 5th position, with Ben Horrell there in 6th alongside. And as we move down to row 4, David Weisbeck is there with Nico Väyrynen, 7th and 8th positions. Poor qualifying by Stanza Bradley Philpott, but it's so close on the 1:13.2s. He finds himself there in 9th position overall, and he's alongside Darren Parker, making it an all-club UK&I or British top 10, with Liam Buckley and Kleber Toffoli 11th and 12th positions. Row 7 will see Kent Nielsen, home track for him, in 13th. He'll have Reynaldo Augusto, who is very, very quick on his day, in 14th, with Dan Buffton and Bruno Canavas 15th and 16th. Morgan Soam is in 17th position, with John Atkinson Jr. there in 18th overall. And then you can see 19th and 20th, Adam Webb and Ray Griffio in there. Jan Stratinsky, also a home track for him, in 21st, with the Pennsylvanian Tamas Shane in 22nd. John Pat Kelly and Jonathan Oshaline will be 23rd and 24th. Marcus French, 25th. And Thomas Bartosic found himself with issues in qualifying with the track limit strictness policy, which is added into this series. He got disqualified in qualifying, and if that serves me correct here, Jay, he is disqualified from the race before it has even started.
Yeah, I believe that is correct, but I do know that they were looking at changing that and bringing in that drivers would be able to run, but fingers crossed he can actually run, even if it is from the back of the grid. But we'll see if he's allowed to race. Fingers crossed for him, but yeah, he could be in a bit of trouble there. I mean, even if he is able to race, it's going to be a poor result because he's so far back.
Yeah, and that is not ideal for him at all, because he is up there P5 in the championship. Some work to be done, and he hasn't taken himself up to the starting grid, nor has Marcus French, by the way, either. He just gets on the grid now with Bartosic, so he will be able to start, but albeit from the back of the grid, so lots of work to do. Ugolotti on the front, keep an eye out on him today. He should be looking for 5 in 5. The green light goes off, and we are racing. Slow start from Väyrynen there from the second row of the grid. Immediately, Ben Horrell in the end, trying to get alongside. 3 wide they go. Philpott being aggressive there through turn 1, and he's got himself a position on Horrell, I do believe, and someone else there in the background. But nice and calm, everyone does make their way through the opening couple of corners, which is ideal for them in terms of the way they race. But nicely, they try to work single file. A lot of battling in the background. Kent Nielsen, for example, Nico Väyrynen has really fallen back.
Yeah, Väyrynen's had a horrible start. Was way up there at the start and now way back. He's back to 12th position already. But yeah, fair bit of 2x2 is Augusto as well, just behind him. Buffton side by side. Buffton not scared to... yeah, Buffton's never been scared to throw it too wide as well. We saw that last week as well.
And now behind that, Bruno Canavas wanting to get one done here at Lepangle at the hairpin. Couple drivers running wide then as they go through and sort out their braking markers as they go through. So not ideal at all. Side by side, Philpott and Weisbeck. Philpott says, I'm going to drop myself single file, make sure there are no dramas at all, as that first lap is going to be scored complete then in the books. And we've seen a lot of battling in that opening lap, but it's no surprises. Matteo Ugolotti in control then at the front of the field as Philpott makes his way through turns 1 and 2 we focus on at the moment, as he is now stuck behind Weisbeck, the train in front he wants to catch, of Martinez, of Samuli Veiranen, and Matt Wood, who has made good progress there in 3rd place.
Yeah, very, very clean start too, which is great to see. Everyone has made it through the first lap. We were talking about Bartosic and his bad luck at the start of the race in qualifying. Already made his way up into 18th position, so he's already gaining positions on this first lap.
Well, the issue is he's got Morgan Saum and Bruno Canavas in front, and he's trying to search for a way through. You're not going to find it into that 3rd chicane. It's so difficult. Canavas does run wide, though. And this is going to open the door here to Morgan Saum to have a look on what will become the outside heading to Lepangle. But if Bartosic is brave on the brakes, he might just be able to sneak one here down the inside. And oh, you incorrigible little rogue, finding a way through. But look at that power on the exit because you got drive from the outside track. Morgan Saum doing well, but once again, you're going to have to work out how the fuel works in this race, and there goes forward Bartosic, getting it done, and of course no DRS until this lap.
Yep, so if Bartosic is able to get so many moves done without DRS, once the DRS is activated on this lap, he'll be likely to make some more moves. Interesting too, when I was doing a little bit of prep work for this race today, the DRS activation zone at point 1 is actually very, very early. So just out of the last chicane, as you come under that first bridge is the DRS activation zone. So you've got a long way to go before the DRS is activated after the activation point. So Veiranen on screen now. There's the activation point there. And you've got to wait all this time before the DRS actually is able to be opened.
Weisbeck has gone into the wall, contact with Philpott, who had ran into him from behind. He is very not happy about that at all, and he's got to work out now to find a reverse. That's the good news that he's done, and he is incredibly angry over the radio with Bradley Philpott as he goes through. We're going to catch this on the virtual racing score replay, and this is how easily it can go wrong. So he caught a slide anyway, going through that 3rd chicane, which made him vulnerable into this section. But Philpott, not expecting him to cover on the inside, just didn't leave himself enough room to get to the inside there, did Philpott.
Yeah, and interesting alternate line that Weisbeck was taking there. He sort of was defending but holding the natural line at the same time, and I think that unknown from Weisbeck really caught out Philpott as well. So I'm sure that there was definitely no intent there. It's just almost as if there's a bizarre defense from Weisbeck, and yeah, as you said, Philpott didn't leave himself enough room to get down either. So yeah, both drivers played a role, but yeah, it's pretty unfortunate. Weisbeck would be very, very disappointed with that. Deserved a lot better than that. Is Kent Nielsen, another driver that's starting to make some moves already.
Home track, of course, Kent Nielsen here. Darren Parker just behind, so up 4 places off the start. His next focus, Kent Nielsen, will be Liam Buckley. Philpott is okay. The contact was netcode as well as he tried to go through, so he's got away with that. But there is the DRS in full effect, and it is double DRS as well when you go through. That's something that people tend to forget, is that it's a double DRS zone. That one activation point does mean 2, and now all of a sudden, that's why you can get freight trained around this place. Down the inside, Darren Parker goes on Liam Buckley. Welcome to racing at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
Yeah, exactly right. And there, the double DRS really does hurt you if you have a poor run out of the hairpin as well. you get caught out even worse. So, yeah, as you said, freight training, definitely a thing. And Kent Nielsen already almost out of DRS range from Darren Parker. So, great job from Kent Nielsen. He's starting to close in on Ben Horrell, who is right up in behind Bradley Philpott. And Philpott, as you said, probably has got away with it. He might have a slight little bit of front wing damage. It may be hurting his pace, but the mental game of that from Philpott. I mean, Philpott's a very, very good driver, professional driver as well, so he'll be okay. But those sort of incidents can affect drivers in lots of different ways as well. So not just the on-track thing and your actual driving, but the mental side of it too, having those sort of incidents can affect you as well. Horrell doesn't look like he's going to be quite close enough to get this move done.
No, not yet, but of course there are also tactics that come in. You don't need to make the move straight away around this place, and you have that ability to just lift off and make sure that you've got opportunity later on in the event to go out there and attack. Of course, being behind a driver is actually a blessing, you could say, at this race, because you do have to go out there and save maybe about 2 laps worth of fuel, which is maybe a little bit easier around this place than others here, Jay, because you've got so many high-intensity braking zones that you can lift and coast quite a bit around this place and still hold position.
Yeah, and a lot of drivers that know the fuel game will probably be looking to do it early as well. Save as much fuel as you can early so you can attack later. And making your tyres last is going to be a key as well, because it is a fairly long race when you look at it. I mean, it's a fairly tough circuit for tyres as well, because of the nature of the corners and the street, the circuit nature of this track as well. So Horrell's going to get this done fairly easily this time, and he's through. Ben Horrell now up into 6th position. Nice easy move for him. But yeah, the tyres and conserving the tyres as well as saving fuel at the same time going to be very, very tough on the drivers. And we may see some drivers be very, very aggressive in fuel saving later on that haven't saved enough early.
Yeah, we certainly could do. As that camera there coming down the back straight, I was very scared it was actually going to fall off with how aggressive these McLaren MP4-30s were going by it. There is Reynaldo Augusto in the F1 Apps car there. He is in 11th position right now, having a very nice start to his race. He's up 3 places. His eyes now on Liam Buckley with that traditional Ferrari helmet on there, I would say circa 1990, that style of helmet there. So on the brakes, right left chicane coming up, trying to open up as much as you possibly can, because there is a very fast train behind Reynaldo Augusto, holding the 3 drivers, Nico Veron and Clayton Toffoli, and the hard-charging Thomas Bartosic as well.
Yeah, exactly right, and all fairly close, so it won't take much for all of these guys. I must say, good job from Bartosic. Oh, in the background, someone around, that's Canavas. Has hit the wall. Easy
as that, the incident happens, and I don't think he got attacked from it. He got on the curb, and then he's in that final gear of acceleration. I think it's from... Whoa! Wall of Champions, Kleber Toffoli. He'll be a champion one day, but that day is not today.
That was big for Toffoli. We'll catch both of these incidents. Was there a little bit of help there? I don't know if there was or not, but this is huge. Yeah.
So Canavas just did it on his own through acceleration. Again, nothing there for Toffoli either. Just takes too much in, grabs the tyres, and then effectively the car just wants to spear itself back into the wall. And well, he joins Michael Schumacher, Damon Hill, and Jacques Villeneuve in all hitting that wall of champion.
And he's out of the race from that as well. So Canavas has driven it into the lane, getting his damage fixed, but Toffoli is out, Weisbeck's out. There are 2 big-name casualties early on in this race. From what was a very, very clean start, have 2 big names out fairly early. A little disappointing is Jorge Martinez starting to close in on Veyronen here. Last lap by a couple of tenths quicker. He's now well and truly in draft range and DRS range. If he can hold this gap, you would think that the DRS will be enough for him to get through, but he just seems to be making a couple of minor little mistakes through the mid part of the course.
Well, it's very tough as well through the mid part of the course because you are struggling with that dirty air effect. Those corners are open in nature in terms of how you put the power down. So you're always fighting against that dirty air effect to try and fight for that aerodynamic grip. Of course, you get all those different vortices which are simulated here by iRacing, which go over the vehicle. And that's why you see drivers sometimes 4, 5, 6 tenths of a second back, unable to really do anything over the course of these races. But a nice little bit of hairpin work there from Jorge Martinez, and he is a deadly character in this sort of race. The two things that he is very good at doing: A, saving fuel, B, saving tyres. What do you need to do today? Save fuel, save tyres. Down the inside going into the final corner, he gets it nicely done.
Yep, and you're exactly right too. Saving fuel, saving tyres, something he's been very, very strong at in previous races in this series, and that is going to put him in good stead for later on in the race. He'll probably be one of the last to pit, which means that that second stint, seeing him not have to save fuel and save tyres, is going to be a joy to watch, I think. I think we're going to see something very, very special out of Martinez. I mean, he's probably already too far back from Ugolotti, but Oliveira and Matt Wood may be a little bit concerned about Martinez's pace, what he potentially could bring later on in the race. It's going to be very, very exciting to watch later on.
Of course, you've got to remember where the pit stop windows are. For those who want to move on to the medium compound tyres, I'd say lap 14, probably with the earliest you can possibly think about going onto those yellow-walled medium compound tyres. Worth keeping an eye out on who's gone onto them. Well, only one driver is currently right now on them as we look at Salm versus Atkinson for 15th and 16th position. The only driver on the medium compound tyres is Jonathan Oshelin. Out there on track in the number 26. He's currently in 21st position right now, as this battle will look to be all about putting the power down on the exit with a chance to attack. But there is a big problem here, which has been encountered for John Atkinson Sr., is that Morgan Soam has himself Dan Bufton in front of him.
Yep, and Soam has got DRS as well, but I must say, very, very nice through the final chicane there for Atkinson, and he's going to get this done. So, War, is he? Yes.
Nice move then. John Atkinson Jr. getting it moved up into 15th place. Morgan Soam struggling there with that final corner, that last chicane. And we need to talk about that final chicane here as we look further forward at Buckley versus Augusto once again. That final chicane, it's all about how aggressive can you be. Yes, those are huge anti-cut curbs, but you do need a lot of confidence in the car to fling it through and hope you've still got grip when you're up on 2 tyres, sometimes even no tyres.
Exactly right, and you've got to have faith in your car and faith in your setup, and faith in your own ability to be able to be aggressive through there. And the best drivers are the drivers that show the most faith in their own ability, you would think, through that section of the circuit. So very, very tough section. Is just noticed that Kent Nielsen threw on Bradley Philpott, so maybe there is a little bit of damage to that front wing that we can't quite see, because he's definitely struggling for pace at the moment, is Philpott.
I think he's tyre saving. He said to Kent, yeah, come through, I'm tyre saving. So okay. I think that's the message. Bradley Philpott's probably looking to try and go onto a one-stop strategy from now to the end of the race, going soft. So I think he's trying to go as long as he possibly can right now. But he's quite fortunate and happy that he's got a Kent Nielsen in front of him, who's up 6 places, because he can just sit behind, save the fuel, save the tyres as much as he possibly can, and then later in this race he then has that realm of possibility to go out there and attack. Currently 15 seconds adrift at this moment, but he does have to be a little bit careful behind, because there is Darren Parker, who definitely wants to make himself a nuisance right now and move up that place as well.
Definitely wants to. His pace has been pretty good throughout this race too, so to be matching Bradley Philpott for pace, and now has DRS, so he'll probably get this done as well, depending on how his saving is going. With Parker looking strong, not quite close enough before the Wall of Champions.
Doesn't look like it's much stronger out of the Wall of Champions section, that final chicane. And I definitely would say I am not pious enough to drive these sorts of vehicles. I can't get myself any faith in one of these. I'd find myself around quicker than you can say whatever word you want to. There is John Atkinson's Jr. there, trying to get through on Dan Buffton, who's gone a little bit deep. Suddenly, open the door up, try and steal the inside. Morgan Soam sticking his nose in maybe a little bit where it didn't belong. But here comes the attack to turn 3. If it's not done by here, then you're in deep trouble. And Buffton had to let that one go on the outside. Very, very difficult to hold it too wide through turn 3 and 4.
Yeah, and the other issue he's got is that because he waited so long to get back into line, he was compromised through that next section. Morgan Soam, what a move.
Round the outside of turn 7 is one you don't often see at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and Morgan just putting every single trick in the book in the Microsoft car, making that one look absolutely fantastic with that sort of pass. So a great little move for position, worth keeping an eye out on the front of the field here. That gap is extending now at this moment in time. It was 2.3 seconds 2 laps ago. Suddenly, Ugolotti's put the flip switch on. I think he's actually saved quite a nice amount of fuel, and he is keeping the tyres in check as Philpott here is going to be under pressure. Look at this then as they battle. Is that Nielsen who's dropped 2 places?
Yeah,
so Nielsen drops 2, and Parker, and also that is going to be Philpott, both gained. So mistake for Kent Nielsen, it seemed, there through the final corner.
Yeah, so 117 for Nielsen on that last lap.
He actually brushed the wall of champions.
Okay.
So I think we might be able to have a look at this one. We are actually here on the virtual racing school replay. He was on his own trying to build a gap here. You can see no pressure behind from Bradley Philpott, but watch as he misses the first apex here going into this section. Just misses out, has to get it together. You can see that there. The lightest tap into the wall of champions. That's called getting away with one, and Kent Nielsen has used one of his 9 sim racing lives.
Yeah, very, very lucky to get away with that as Bartosic gets past Ronaldo Augusto, and the advantage he's got is, of course, the DRS marker board. The activation zone is before the hairpin, so Bartosic is already through and has DRS, so he'll be enjoying the little bit of extra pace he's got with no one in front of him. Up into 11th.
Yeah, and all of that down to a mistake by Ronaldo Augusto coming out of the 3rd chicane. He got spread eagle sideways coming out of the corner, had to jam the brakes on to keep the car pointing in a straight direction, and ultimately from there he was always going to be sitting duck as we focus still on this battle between Dan Buffton and co. Morgan Soam is there. Buffton, now you got Ray Griffey-Owen on the back, and soon Adam Webb might want to get into the party there in 18th position. Someone who just quietly goes about business and gets results is Adam Webb right now. On the brakes they go in towards that next corner, left, right, that 2nd chicane out on circuit, and that's the one where dirty air effect hurts the most.
Yep, and I must say Adam Webb probably down a little bit this week in comparison to what we normally would see. We normally see him up a little bit higher than this on the top 10 area, so a little bit bizarre to see him so far back, but I mean, every track's so unique and different that we do see pros and cons of each circuit and strengths and weaknesses, and different drivers do well at different circuits, and this is obviously one that hasn't quite gelled with Adam Webb because he's a little bit further back than we would normally see.
Exactly, and this is the sort of circuit you look at and go, well, it favours some drivers and it doesn't favour others. There is some damage actually on that front wing for Adam Webb, so he is now having to deal with that. He maybe has to take an extra 5 seconds in his pit stop also to try and mitigate some of those damages. But, you know, we talk about it, for example, when we cover the V8 Scops League here on SimSpeed TV, that drivers like Brett Loxton have a good run. There is Oshaline going for a little bit of a misdemeanor. That's a 4-second slowdown penalty down there, which is really not ideal at all, as the car in front of him actually doesn't have a front wing by the looks of things there. So that's not a good looking vehicle at this moment for Jan Stratinsky, especially on home soil.
Yeah, Stratinsky will be definitely taking that extra time at the pit stop, and as you said too, they can come in for hard compound tyres from now. But yeah, there's a lot of drivers in all different sorts of series that have those sort of runs where they just go about their business and all of a sudden find good results and you don't even know they're there. So
Yeah.
Yeah, Adam Webb's one of those drivers that seems to do that more than not. So, no doubt we'll look down at the timing sheet later on and go, wow, where did he come from?
Well, there is Thomas Bartosic, and that is Nico Väyrynen just behind. So Bartosic, mistake in the third sector, just before the Pangle had been doing almost exactly what one Mr. Renato Augusto did, but just a little bit before through the first part, not the second part of the chicane. So that's why he is down an extra place at this moment in time, which is not ideal for Bartosic. He's been riding a really good race at this moment in time, and that was the first real mistake that we've seen a lap ago from this point as he enters the third chicane.
He'll be a little bit disappointed with that, but still moving forward is Bartosic. I mean, he started last, he's into 12th before the halfway stages of the race, so he'll probably be looking to maybe get up to a top 8 or something based on his current pace. I would suspect, based on looking at lap times and things like that, that we'll see Bartosic around that battle with Kent Nielsen and Darren Parker by the end. 30 laps to go, so medium compound tyres definitely an option for drivers now, but it looks like a lot of drivers are going to opt for that soft one-stop strategy. Is Kent Nielsen around?
Oh no, and he's not happy as well, as he finds himself in the wall on the outskirts of turn 2, all on his own as well. Just carries a bit too much. The back end steps out, tries to keep it out of the wall, and ultimately puts it in there. And that is the second time now that Kent Nielsen has made a mistake in that opening section, or final sector to opening sector on the lap. You can see he goes into turn 1, just carries a bit too much, back steps out, he tries to gather it back up, and oh, nice tap into the wall there in the good Earth car.
It looks like damage-wise he might get away with that one, hopefully. So he hopefully won't have to stop and get a new front wing. But yeah, that's unfortunate for him. He was having a great run, and he's going to have to work hard to get positions back, as I've just seen that's Morgan Soam around.
Oh no, so Morgan Soam now making mistakes, and this is the issue with drivers trying to push that soft compound tyre as far as possible. There is a cliff, and you do start very easy to see that all go wrong, and this is where you find all the issues. Goes through that left-right chicane, and then trying to put the pad on the exit. You got absolutely nothing in the rear tyres, and Buffton through the smoke. Of course, that new smoke physics coming in, always very difficult to know where a car actually is.
And again, he looks like he might have got away with that too. Slight little bit of damage, slight hit in the wall, so he might be okay as we go back up to the battle between Väyrynen, Bartosic, Atkinson and Kent Nielsen now in this one too. So a nice little 4-car battle. Bartosic not far away. Oh no, I've just going to talk him up, and commentators cursed him.
Well, Jay, you have a knack of that, and
I'm very good at
I
it.
believe you owe him an apology after that sort of moment. So very easily done there. Thomas Bartosic going through that third chicane, really struggling to put anything down in terms of power, but that's just the back end stepping out and saying, I don't have rear tyres anymore.
Yeah, and this is the issue that a lot of drivers are going to have over the next 3 or 4 laps to try and get it to halfway. If they can hold on to these tyres, we might see a few drivers maybe even look at changing up their strategy now. They're starting to see how much these softs are dropping off a cliff now at lap 20. We could see some drivers go, nah, tyres aren't coping very well. I'm going to go to mediums just to make sure I've got enough to the end. Because if they go soft from here, they've got to do 27 laps on this stint. So very, very tough job if they go from here. But pit window well and truly open from now to the end. As right on cue, Bartosic has come in.
Yeah, no surprises there. So it's 27 laps from here to the end. So this should be the medium compound tyre going on. I am noticing, though, that Diogo Oliveira in second position is really struggling on those tyres right now. Matt Wood has been closing down 3/10 of a second probably for about the last 3 laps or so. Got that gap down under 2, and now Matt Wood is really showcasing what he is all about. Oliveira sticking it out then for the long haul, but because of his inability to save tyres relative to those around him, he is now falling backwards into trouble.
Exactly right, and another lap of that same pace, and Matt Wood may be close enough to get a move done and interesting. Bartosic out on the medium tyre, so he's thought, as I was sort of suspecting, that, you know, the 27 laps from there may be too much to go soft, so they're going soft medium. So if we see anyone pit in the next 3 laps, maybe they'll go to the medium, but then after that, we'll obviously see soft and a second soft. But Matt Wood now, is he close enough for DRS to be activated? Yes, green light on the dash. That left-hand green light means DRS is active. It'll go double lights when he opens the rear wing. So Oliveira in big trouble.
He certainly is, because Matt Wood now will have that ability of going right up to the top. 326. Matt Wood goes, he hits the level, but into the pits comes Oliveira. He couldn't wait any longer. Also in is the race leader, Matteo Ugolotti. Had built up a 5.2 second gap at the front of the field, which means Matt Wood now has control of this race, will be going out and trying to overcut in terms of strategy, which will be very, very difficult, but he'll have the knowledge of knowing that Diogo Oliveira is no good on the tyres in the later stages of the stint with that setup. Ugolotti in the box, he'll be there for about 4 seconds, and then he gets himself out and away and back onto racing, and he will find himself in a fantastic pocket of clean air just behind Bradley Philpott.
Yep, and both gone softs as well, so they're going to go soft. Väyrynen in, Kent Nielsen in. I don't know what you went at there. It was the rejoin for Oliveira, just basically side by side with Darren Parker. So Parker obviously wasn't up to the same pace as Oliveira, as you get shot out of the pit lane.
Tell you what, I was more shocked there, Jay, at the fact that Darren Parker had outdone himself into turn number 2, and he very nearly, if you'd have been half a second slower in the stop, Diogo Oliveira, he wouldn't have had a car anymore.
Yeah. So Kent Nielsen out as well. All these guys doing softs. As Väyrynen out. Tamasene
Wood in.
out. Yep. So probably to cover off that pit stop from Oliveira, but 1 extra lap means he's got 1 extra lap to push harder on the tyres. Not that these guys are going to push too hard, because they're going to have to save a lot of tyre in the next phase of the race. Väyrynen in. Ugolotti already goes through. Where will Oliveira come on by, as Matt Wood still stopped? Oliveira did get a bit of DRS there though, so he got a little bit of help with Liam Buckley, and there goes Matt Wood. About the same gap.
Still. Yep, still in range, and that was the key. Very, very good stop there from Matt Wood. You have to remember as well, this is the IndyCar style pit, not the Formula 1 style pit. So there is a big difference in terms of how long you need to go towards your box to make things happen. So Jorge Martinez is your race leader at the moment. He has been out there doing very, very well in this one at the moment. So he is doing a very stellar job of looking after those tyres, and he hasn't really dropped off too much in the last couple of laps. He's been in and around those 15.8s, 15.9s. Only then did he jump into a 16.1, and now he's decided lap 23, I'm going to come in for my stop and try and undercut everyone. So there is Bradley Philpott at the moment, and behind him, a very fast number 1 of Matteo Ugolotti. I'm not going to make my life difficult for him. I'm going to dive into the pits, give him a freebie.
And going back on Martinez there, what did we say at the start of the race? What is Martinez good at? Saving fuel, saving tyres. He goes pretty much the longest out of everyone on those tyres. So great first stint there for Jorge Martinez. And out he comes. He'll rejoin in 4th position. And a fairly big gap behind him to Väyrynen. So he's looking pretty strong there for 4th. Not too far away from Matt Wood and Diego Oliveira too is Jorge Martinez. So that's going to be an interesting little fight at the end. Philpott's going to rejoin behind Horrell, and doesn't look like he had to change front wing, so he did get away with that one earlier on.
Yeah, he certainly did. Now the lapping process begins over this 47-lap event. There is Morgan Sohm, who is yet to come down in and make a stop, currently in 9th position overall at this moment in time. But of course, one driver did dive down in front and make a stop. That's a little bit liberal with the line for Marcus Frentz, who started all the way back in 25th, riding about in two very differently contrasting Ferrari-style colours there as Jean-Pat Kelly goes through. His helmet is a Michael Schumacher, yet he's got a 2010-esque Ferrari livery on. So that says all you need to know. He's got two fans.
He's a bit caught in two minds, isn't he, on what he wants to be?
Yeah.
A little bit more modern or a little bit old
school. That was Oshalim as well, I believe, retiring from the race in that McLaren style on the medium. So what's happened to him?
I'm not sure either what's happened to him. So he's now escaped 2 laps ago. He had an issue, but he drove it into the lane. So not sure what's going on there.
Well, finally, Morgan Soame in the Microsoft car is going to be down into the pit. So his stop very much nicely all sorted out at this moment in time. But at least for the moment, Matteo Ugolotti regains the race lead. There is Bartosic. He's down right now in 18th place at the moment, really trying to work to get back through this field after his major spin that he had. He was the first real taker onto the lane, had to switch to the mediums because of how early he needed to make that stop. And he's going to come out right behind Morgan Soame, who was just leaving pits there. You saw on the right-hand side of screen. There he is right now. And he's going to have a little bit of side-by-side battling there with Adam Webb.
Yeah, and Bartosic now the only driver on mediums. So it'd be interesting to see in that last 5 or 6 laps how much Bartosic can gain. He's going to lose out a little bit here to these guys around him now. But he's going to come on strong right at the end. So, as you said, having that spin's hurt him a fair bit, but it could turn out okay for him in the end. I mean, he's had a very, very up and down race. He was almost into the top 10 before that spin. Now he's way back. This battle's continuing from pre-pit stops. Väyrynen versus Augusto. It's been a good little fight. These two seem to always find themselves together.
Well, it's worth noting that Nico Väyrynen actually jumped Reynaldo Augusto in the stop, so definitely that's worked out in the White Machine's favour as he now makes his way through, looking to attack through turn number 2 and over the crest in towards 3 and 4, which does descend down the hill. It's very awkward to talk about, or something that's not talked about around this circuit here of Gilles Villeneuve. Everyone thinks that this is a bone-flat circuit. It's not. There are little crests and falls everywhere.
100%. It's I mean, there's not a huge amount of elevation change, but the elevation that does change is quite severe. As you said, the little crests and little bumps. And speaking of little bumps, that was a fairly big bump there for Väyrynen, and now he's well and truly under pressure.
Well, he knows that Reynaldo Augusto's got DRS as he tries to really open up on the exit then, tucked up right underneath through that phase of acceleration. And watch this. This should be plain sailing. He may as well be on one of those boats that you'd find rowing along. So he's really actually struggling there. Look at that. Reynaldo Augusto's at 330 kilometers an hour, and without DRS, Nico Väyrynen has got that trimmed out for straight line speed. He's got it covered.
Yeah, so Väyrynen's definitely worked on a setup that's going to benefit him in defense in regards to straight line speed. So Augusto probably thought, yes, I'm going to get through here nice and easy, and then as soon as he's gone to open the DRS, why am I not gaining as much as I thought I would be? So, good job from Väyrynen. He's obviously thought about that a little bit in setup, but his car seems to be one of the better ones in defence that we've seen throughout this race.
That's the key as well, defence, because this is a track which is notoriously, in these McLaren MP4-30s, with 2 boatloads of the drag reduction system in effect, very tough to defend that, especially when you've got someone in range. There is Soame still in his 3-car scrap at the moment as he looks to try and find a way through Adam Webb. That still isn't quite happening at this moment in time, but this is a very tough circuit to defend at, and you need that straight line speed to go out there and to be able to defend those places, because effectively what you're relying on for the majority of the lap isn't what you'd call aerodynamic grip, but more rather mechanical grip.
Yeah, exactly right. And being able to set your car up to be strong in the right places around this circuit is probably more key than anything else. Augusto again with DRS but not able to get through, and also Adam Webb, also another car that looks fairly strong in defence as well. So Adam Webb probably, as we said, is probably a little bit off the pace from what we would normally see, so may have gone that route for his setup to be able to defend those positions a little bit stronger than we may see others doing. Bartosic has dropped off out of DRS range now, and as we said, he'll get that back later on, but this is an interesting little fight here between Webb and Sound.
It is very much an interesting battle, and we'll see how this one will continue as things go on. There is Nico Veronen once again, one Mr. Reynaldo Augusto in the F1 Apps car, looking to really attack through. You'll see that the DRS flap will open up. There you go. That will give you an extra, quote-unquote, 10 to 15 Ks on any straight at any point in time, is through the right left of that final chicane, and that's a mistake actually from Reynaldo Augusto. He really got that one wrong, and he loses that opportunity then to go out and attack Nico Veronen towards turn number 1. I wanted to try and cast my attention though to second, third and fourth positions and the last lap times that they have done. Ugolotti did a 14.4 that last time by, but Oliveira 14.6, Matt Wood a 14.9, and Jorge Martinez a 15 flat as he tried to go through. What's key is that Oliveira is really, really quick in the opening stages of his phase. The bad news is he's trading that off for no tyre at the end.
Yeah, and Matt Wood, we saw in that early stint that he was a lot more consistent throughout the latter stages in comparison to the early phase of his race. He's just done a 15 flat. Martinez a 14.8, 14.7 for Oliveira and 14.7 for Ugolotti. So all of them all within 3/10 at the front, but yeah, the plateau is going to favour Matt Wood at the end of this race over Oliveira. Oliveira is going to have to be very, very careful in those last maybe 4 laps. Make sure he's got enough tyre left. Remember, he pitted on lap 21, so that means he's got to do 26 in this stint. He's got to do 5 extra laps on this phase than he did in the first round first phase of this race. How is he going to make the tyre last 5 laps longer when he didn't look like he had too much tyre left anyway?
Tell you what, it'd be mightily impressive if they had to save their tyres for 4 rounds of racing action. I'm sure we wouldn't see anyone going over 50 Ks over the course of this race. Tell you what, though,
it's too early,
Dan Buffton actually has had himself in a really cool scrap with Kent Nielsen as we look at Reynaldo Augusto here in 11th place, still trying to regain contact onto the back of one Mr. Nico Veronen. But Dan Buffton actually had to defend into the final chicane. They've got a little gap of 5 seconds back to Ray Griffey-Owen, and they are 7 seconds back of John Atkinson Jr., I should say. So the big key here is Dan Buffton feels he can't get anything out of this race, and he's going to fight Kent Nielsen all the way to the end of this one.
And Kent Nielsen's out of position. Remember, he had that mistake at turn 1, and his pace, that being Nielsen, pace is definitely for top 10, almost top 5 pace. So Kent Nielsen, definitely the stronger of the 2 drivers at this track today, but you're just not quite able to get a move done, and he's compromised line there using the DRS, wasn't able to get it done. He should have backed out a little bit earlier there. He might have had a second run at it, but yeah, Kent Nielsen crumbling under some pressure here a little bit, and uncharacteristic for Kent Nielsen, one of our more solid drivers that we see in this series. He's uncharacteristically making mistakes and not driving to his normal ability.
Yeah, and what's very, very key actually in terms of that battle going on right now is that Kent Nielsen was over the radio saying, please don't weave, Dan, when you're on the straight. I'm finding it almost impossible to get a clean line to make that move through. So that's going to be quite awkward in terms of the way he goes through. Keep an eye out as well behind, because Adam Webb and Morgan Sohm, they're trading over the radio here. Adam Webb is very much being a thorn in the side right now, and they are backing each other up here into Thomas Bartosic.
Yep, and remember, Bartosic, the longer these guys go, the stronger Bartosic is going to be on his tyres. So, tell you what, I'm concerned that these two are going to come together. I get that feeling that something bad is about to happen between those two. Do you get that spidey sense that we sometimes get that something's going to happen between these two?
Oh, you always get a sixth sense when you see that in racing. You can almost predict when two drivers are going to come together by just the, I would say, body language of how they drive. It seems very weird to say that, but all drivers, they do have a body language of how they try and place a car out there on circuit. And when you do notice that drivers are getting a little bit more pent up or angry or aggressive when they go out there and drive, you get that feeling that someone's going to happen. I did catch a little bit of what Morgan Sohn was saying. He's saying, Adam, you're too fast, I can't pass, which is weird to say when he's 0.2 of a second behind and he's got DRS and double DRS at that. But you're too fast, I can't pass.
And if it continues on for too long, great run. Continues on too long.
Just tempered.
Yeah, if it continues on too long, it's when the frustration starts to come in and you become desperate. So, yeah, I think something's about to happen here that we might need replays for. So, we'll stick with this, I think.
I think we will as well. Kent Nielsen has actually made his way through on Dan Buffton in the meanwhile. You can see that just a little bit further down on the screen. Dan Buffton has now dropped the place, and that one then is, of course, the 13th and 14th position. But here comes Sohn trying to move to the inside then here at the final chicane. And look at that, Adam Webb, all the experience in the world, just gets on the brakes early. You can effectively say in a Star Wars term there, Jay, he pulled the end-or brake maneuver.
Yeah, I'm not a Star Wars person, so I've got no idea what that meant.
Oh, it's old Star Wars as well. So effectively, what happened is he's done what Luke Skywalker did on the planet of Endor when two Wookiees was chasing him, and he just pulled the brakes back and made sure that those two Wookiees pulled straight on by. So that's effectively what you just saw there. So more battling on the horizon, and it is worth talking about who's making great progress in this race. Oliveira has built that gap out again. He is matching the pace of Matteo Ugolotti out in front. So we keep an eye on John Atkinson Jr. here, who has his own eyes on the back, because he's very quietly been sauntering onto the back there, Jay, of Reynaldo Augusto and Nico Väyrynen.
Yeah, he's just slowly caught up to these guys, and now all of a sudden he's well and truly in the fight. He's got DRS now from Augusto, who's still got DRS. Big thanks to VRS.
You might have that as well, you don't know.
Yeah, well, maybe. Ronaldo Augusto's caught up to him with some DRS, and of course Augusto's still behind Väyrynen. But this two-car fight between Augusto and Väyrynen now will become a three-car fight with that DRS help. So, yeah, this is going to be an interesting little battle here.
I'll tell you what, if any company wants to come and sponsor us off this iRacing Grand Prix Series event, you know that product placement is primed and ready with what Jay was like then. Still, though, that battle will continue at this moment, but it's one of those very awkward Formula One style battles where they're within a second or a second and a half of each other, and they just can't break through that window. It's like almost like a glass ceiling that's effectively trapping them there, but they can't get any closer because of those turbulences. It's very tough to break into 1 second, and then very tough to break through half a second.
100% right. It's not easy to pass around this track at the best of times, but the nature of the spots that DRS is, I mean, and in real world they did add that third DRS zone, the run up to the hairpin, which did help a little bit more with passing, but the spots that DRS is active, if you've got a car that is set up very, very well for straight line speed like Väyrynen is, it makes it nigh on impossible for the likes of Augusto and Atkinson Jr. here to actually get moves done. It's not an easy track to pass out at the best of time in these cars, and when you've got a car that's set up so well for straight line speed and defending like Väyrynen has, it's making it very, very tough for Augusto to get through. And Augusto probably is the stronger of the two drivers. He's just his pace and the lines that he's taking and the flow of the driving that he's doing. He does look like he's been in a little bit of a stronger position. So it's actually been very, very good to watch how good Väyrynen's doing here, because he doesn't look as strong through the slower sections, but on this straight here he looks really good, and he's not far off getting DRS as well from Liam Buckley, who they're all catching up to quite quickly.
Yeah, Buckley a 15.6 that last time by, and it was 15.5s and a 15.3 as they all cross the line. So Buckley looking like he's going to be in a little bit of a pickle in the not too foreseeable future. Another battle going on is for 6th place, actually, at this moment in time. The very careful and methodical work of Bradley Philpott has found himself on the back of the 19 machine of Ben Horrell, who I think, on the pace that he has shown over the course of this season, Ben Horrell does not deserve to have a 19 on his vehicle. He deserves to be up there probably with about a 7 or an 8. Yeah,
he's definitely been a big improver throughout the series, and his pace is a lot better than his iRating is showing at the moment. So by the end of the season, we might see his number down to single digits, but at the moment, still got a little bit of work to do to get that iRating down, as going to have to defend very, very hard here. This is going to be pretty easy for Philpott because his paces look pretty good with DRS, so we'll see if he can get it done. Didn't quite get the exit out of the hairpin though, did he?
No, he didn't, and that's the key in the M4EM car. He knows what he needs. He needs a very, very good run and a good result here out of this one through that final chicane once more in the, of course, sponsorship there on the top, Butler Powell Motorsports, which is, of course, a very nice combination there with Rene Butler, who has been a very key component, actually, for those who understand sim racing in general. He is a massive, massive advocate for that and has been on top of many sim racing broadcasts as well. Through the right and left, they come along, then down the hill at turns 3 and 4, and then you take that very fast right, which leads to the next left-right chicane. Bradley Philpott knows he's there with Ben Horrell, but he also knows as well there is a bigger fish to fry in terms of the pond, because Samuli Väyrynen, that last time by, lost 1.2 seconds to both of these drivers.
Yep, so here's Väyrynen as they come through the DRS activation point. So Väyrynen, Horrell, Philpott, 2.3 seconds between Väyrynen and Horrell. And this point here, so they've now done pretty much 16 laps in this stint, 15 laps in this stint. They've still got 10 more to go on these tyres. This is where the tyres are starting to fall off. We saw in the first phase, after 14, 15, 16 laps, they're going to still have to hold on for another 10 laps. That is going to be tough for some of these guys to be able to do that. And the likes of Väyrynen might be one of the ones that's very, very susceptible. He's just done a 16.4. His pace is well and truly dropped off. He's a second slower than these guys again, down to 1.5. This is a true 3-car fight now.
I'll tell you what will also be a 3-car fight soon. The battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th position. That gap is down to 3.1 seconds here with 10 to go for Diogo Oliveira, and he's losing exactly 0.3 of a second a lap.
And fastest lap of the race on that last lap by for Ugolotti as well, 14.3. It's very Ugolotti-esque, isn't it? Just all of a sudden pulls out a fastest lap and then tries to do fastest lap on the last lap of the race again as well. So he'll try and do that. It's Griffey Owen and Soom side by side. So Morgan Soom dropped, actually sorry, Ray Griffey Owens dropped back into the clutches of these guys here, and Adam Webb now looking to get through, and Bartosic is slowly starting to close back in again.
Well, this is all awkward because they were all... Oh, no! They're just behind. That is Adam Webb going for a little bit of a spin, coming along that 3rd straight there, coming out of turn 7. It all goes horribly wrong. We'll catch this on the virtual racing school replay then, here as he goes through. This is the first sector of the lap, so not ideal at all in terms of the way that that one was going out for him. Now watch this. He'll go through that left-hand bend. Griffey Owen is there just in front. Is this just a case of power down on the exit? Oh, you bet it is. It's classic Montreal.
Looks like he didn't hit the wall anywhere near as hard as I originally thought as well, so he may have got away with that one. Have a look at this now between Horrell and Philpott. Philpott can't get through, and now he's starting to get a little bit aggressive.
Thinking about it, inside line for the 3rd chicane. He's later on the brakes through. Effectively says to Ben Horrell, you're on the outside, move over, buddy. That is position gain there for Bradley Philpott. But has he just left himself exposed there, Jay, to double DRS?
Yeah, exactly right. He has, because you can see the green light on the dash. That left-hand green light means you have DRS available when it's active. 2 lights means that you're in range. 4 lights mean that it's open. And Ben Horrell is going to go straight on by. Or is he?
No. Philpott wants that to be defended, so he knows he's got to do it again. He's going to move him over, gives him one line. He'll have to take the inside now as they go through. Effectively pinched back over. Ben Horrell commanding the space with his car. Little bit of echo contact between them, and they're out around for a spin. Trying to get the power back down there was Ben Horrell. It was never all there.
Unlucky there for Horrell. He deserved a little bit better than that. So, as you said, a little bit of phantom contact, and Horrell went around trying to get the power down, but that was a very, very intense little battle there. This is interesting as well. Ronaldo Augusto's dropped. Oh no, Atkinson Jr. just around in the background behind Ronaldo Augusto. I was about to say Augusto had dropped off from Väyrynen for the first time in this race, and Väyrynen starting to apply pressure to Liam Buckley.
Yeah, no ideals there for the Phoenix Racing driver there. Of course, used to be a part of the MSP Phoenix Racing team, which was so successful back in Blancpain terms, and what was the GT Championships, or the World Championships they had in iRacing before they changed. Of course, MSP and Phoenix then decided that they wanted to go their separate ways, and Phoenix Racing now, finally, after about 3-4 years, starting to find what they need. But John Atkinson Jr. not finding the ideals at this moment. Now it is the turn of Darren Parker to get himself involved, because he now suddenly has been given a lifeline here. With 1 second, he finds himself into play with Ben Horrell.
Exactly right, and Väyrynen and Buckley together, and Atkinson's coming into the pits. But yeah, Darren Parker now applying a lot of pressure to Ben Horrell, and Horrell will be at a huge disadvantage. Of course, that spin not only disadvantaging because he was behind Philpott, but that would have hyperheated the tyres, put a little bit of extra tyre wear on it. He's going to have to be even more conservative on the tyres, which means that Darren Parker has a bigger opportunity to get through. And the other little thing that we had to keep an eye on was the battle at the front. Matt Wood, Diego Oliveira, half a second pace advantage that last lap by. It's down under 3 seconds. Matt Wood is closing, and closing quickly.
He is. There was a bit of traffic as well that Oliveira had to negotiate with. It was Adam Webb, and I tell you what, I wouldn't like to be Ugolotti right now, because there is a battle in front of him, and it is Buffton versus Sohn at this stage as they go through. Look at that. Griffio in first he'll have to try and dispatch of. Then he's got Sohn versus Buffton, and then it's Kent Nielsen just a little bit further down the road. They're side by side here as they fight it out for 13th position. How unlucky, or lucky for some, they would say. But Buffton, again, really good drive off the exit. Now he's got to try and cover double DRS, and we know that Buffton likes to defend.
Definitely does. He's defended in every single race we've seen him in this series, but it's going to be tough with the double DRS, and through goes Ian home on his recovery after his little spin earlier. And Ray Griffioen doesn't fight Matteo Ugolotti at all. Knows that he's not in that fight in this one, but in the battle, second, third and fourth at the moment. Not really evident on screen that it's a battle, but you look at the timing sheet and you go, yeah, this is starting to get very, very tight. Oliveira did respond on that lap back under the 15-second bracket, but you have to wonder how much Oliveira's got left in the tyres, because he's definitely dropped in his pace over the last few laps. Philpott and Väyrynen, now that's already done. Philpott's
it is.
straight
Oh, you see, Väyrynen was very late on the brakes there. Philpott's made a mistake. He's gone too deep into the corner, but crucially, not able to be capitalised on the front stretch by Samuli Väyrynen. He has to sit behind. And this is just a testament to how quick the top 4 drivers in this race have been so far, Jay, because that gap between Marquez and Philpott right now is about 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? Well, that front 4 are definitely in a league of their own in this race. Philpott's one of the drivers that we would see normally with those guys at the front, that front 4, but he hasn't had a great performance tonight. He's been in a battle all race though, which is, I mean, if you're not going to have a great night and finish in the top 4, at least have a battle to make it worthwhile, and that's what Bradley Philpott's done. He's been in a fight the whole way through this race, and he's going to have to defend again from Väyrynen, but Väyrynen, I think, may be starting to really struggle with these tyres, because we noticed earlier that his pace was just not there at all. So I think he's limping these tyres home is Väyrynen. We'll see if he comes back here, but he's not even going to open the DRS. That's how much he's not fighting.
Well, if you look at his times, his last 4 laps, 16 flat, 16.5, 16.1, and then, of course, with the overtake by one Mr. Bradley Philpott, it was a 17.5 as he came over the line. That time a 16.2, more representative, but 16.2s, they're not getting the job done. You can see Horror behind doing 15.6s, 15.7s, and a little think of a look then down the inside. Darren Parker tries to try and get that one done on what is that speed machine in front of Ben Horrell. Not going to be able to get that one sorted just yet, but a lot of hype energy all over that vehicle. And now Buffton having to defend. Now it's Ray Griffey-Owen's turn.
Yeah, and Griffey-Owen's been very, very conservative in this stint, so he's probably got tyres to burn. And Buffton, we know how aggressive he's been in defence, so he's probably got no tyres left at all. And you just see in the background there, Bartosic. This is the point now where Bartosic is going to be really strong because he's going to have tyres left in comparison to these guys, but is he going to have enough time left to get through? You would think that he's going to come on strong with these last 3 laps, but you never know in these races whether the tyres are really going to be enough for these guys, or has Bartosic left it too late, or just has he not been able to perform with these tyres? Of course, some drivers may have to set the car up slightly differently for medium compound over soft compound tyres too, and Bartosic may be struggling with that. He's set his car up 100% for a race of... It was just a slow car there that's caught me off guard. Has he set the car up 100% for soft compound tyres, and now that it's got onto mediums, he's got nothing left. I must say, though, it's looking good now because he's in DRS zone. He wasn't even close to being in range. He's going to come on strong here.
He certainly is, but he's got 2 to try and get by, and of course he has that really tough position now of knowing that Ray Griffey-Owen has that exact same countermeasure as they go on through this one. That was Marcus Frentz who was slow. He's now down in the pit lane. He was 2 laps down at that moment, so he's had an issue somewhere on track. These drivers are a lap down at the moment, fighting for 14th place out there at this moment in time, so a very, very important battle in the context. Sohm as well, just in front, keep in mind, was really trying to hang on to the back of Matteo Ugolotti over that last lap because he's got eyes on, look at that, Kent Nielsen.
Yeah, and Kent Nielsen's had his own dramas throughout this race. He deserved a much better finish than Kent Nielsen. Of course, that mistake at turn 1 has hurt him, but he was on for what, top 7, top 8 finish, and now he's back in 12th position. And he'll want to make sure that it doesn't drop any lower as he's underneath that rear wing of Ugolotti, so he'll get some DRS from Matteo Ugolotti. And Ugolotti's still doing 14s without DRS. Is incredible. These guys around him at the moment are just doing 14s and 15s with DRS. So, great pace from Matteo Ugolotti. He crosses the line. White flag.
White flag in here. 1 lap to go here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And the key here in that battle behind between Sohm and Co is that it's all about staying in a range. I tell you what, though, Samuli Väyrynen has not given up this race in comparison to Bradley Philpott. That battle going on for the top 5 out there in this one. It's just a case of Philpott's got better tyres, got them better managed, but look at how Samuli Väyrynen has really responded in lap times. He's been saving. He just did a 15.1 over his last lap, and he was doing consistent 16.2, 16.3s. So he's really trying to get this one back. He has saved absolutely everything until he knew he was secure. I think Kent Nielsen's had a big moment out on track, and Morgan Sohm and Co in trouble. Nielsen is out of the race then after he found himself with a big spin. Sohm nowhere to go, bit of netco contact as well, but Ugolotti avoided that. In fact, Buffton got a hit as well on that on the final lap. Look at him, he's so happy, he's leaving already before the Wall of Champions section comes up into view. Such is the confidence, such was the dominance. It's 5 of 5, but he is doing so in such a way that nobody can hold a candle into the wind. Matteo Ugolotti wins once again. Well done to Matteo Ugolotti on victory. Look at the race across the line there just ahead of Diego Oliveira. That was Bartosic, Buffton, Griffey-Owen all together in a group. Matt Wood does get third. He's only 1.2 seconds back in the end. Watch this battle for 5th, and then we will get a replay of what happened there in that little incident for Kent Nielsen. Well, a big incident, I should say, because it's ended his race. say as
he's
well,
gonna do
it
it.
left things awkward. Look at this, great drive then from Samuli Väyrynen. He wants to get there, but he's not quite there at the end. It seems like it's closing hour, and Bradley Philpott is going to hold on to things then, and he is going to get that top 5 finish come the end. It's on here behind as well, because look at that, steal it on the final corner, why don't you? Parker
Horrell's out of
has
fuel.
got it done on Horrell, who was out of fuel.
Yep, we knew that fuel was going to be close, and we suspected that someone would run out of fuel. But yeah, Ben Horrell is the driver that has run out. Unfortunate for him.
Well, let's get a look then at the virtual racing score replay. That's the second hit that went through, so we'll get a good dissection of this one, Jay, as we go through the opening sector with Kent Nielsen. The tyres, I think, just let go on him with half a lap.
Yeah, and we knew that tyre conservation, fuel conservation was the key, and yeah, so unfortunate for Kent Nielsen. But yeah, tyres definitely have let go on him here. He's just looped it around. It wasn't even when he put the power down. It was already gone before he put the power down, and then the rejoin. Yeah, not the best rejoin, unfortunately, there for Kent Nielsen. That would have just been red mist from him. He would have been so disappointed with himself that he's ended up with that incident. And then we'll watch the run to the line here for this group, because see the damage there for Dan Buffton. He's actually going to end up holding off Ray Griffioen, the third car back. And Bartosic from last has somehow ended up back into 13th position, despite dropping all the way back down the field before his pit stop. He was back in last once again, 23rd. He's got back into 13th.
Testament to his character here. You can see he gets the DRS and there's no straight line anymore. Look at that. He took the Ryan Hunter-Reay line. There were 2 tyres on the grass there as he went through. Caught that one perfectly. It was all about Griffioen trying to get that drive through the final corner to attack. And ultimately there, Oliveira decided just to lift off from that one then. And that's why the gap between himself and Matt Wood over the line was just 1.3 seconds as they came to the stripe. So confirmation of result then. It's going to be up on your screen in just the next couple of seconds here, ladies and gentlemen. Some wonderful racing that we have seen here today from that Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And, of course, no surprises. Matteo Ugolotti, 59 minutes, 17 seconds. Gets it done by 9.2 over Diogo Oliveira to finish things out. Matt Wood will pick himself up onto the podium. A great solid drive from him. The top 3 drivers, all as they qualified, 1, 2, and 3. Jorge Martinez continuing his run of consistency. He picks up 4th place overall, but just didn't have that same turn of cadence as everyone else did. That's why he's 4th. And then look at that gap back. It is 34 seconds to Bradley Philpott there in 5th position. You had to be worried about the Finnish driver Samuli Väyrynen just behind there in 6th place. No fuel for Ben Horrell in 8th place. That's why Darren Parker in the 22 jumped up ahead and gained himself that position there of 7th, with Liam Buckley there in 9th position, the first American in the field, and Nico Väyrynen rounding then out the top 10 overall. Over the page, or down the page we go, so to speak. The last finisher on the leading lap was Reynaldo Augusto in the F1 Apps car. It's actually quite nice to see him finishing a race here today. He definitely deserves it, and he doesn't deserve a number 20 on his car. With Morgan Sohm there in 12th place. Bartosic, what a recovery that was. Last on the grid, gets to 13th place come the end of the race, with Dan Buffton finding out disaster with Ray Griffioen being held off the Dutch driver. Then you got Adam Webb there in what is 16th position, ahead of John Atkinson Jr., who had to take an extra stop for a broken front wing. John Pat Kelly there in 18th place. Quiet race for John in the TQ Engineering car, with Tamas Shane in 19th and Jan Stratinsky rounding out the top 20. And then finally, Kent Nielsen, his race ended in retirement 2 laps down, as did Marcus Frenz, also is the German driver. Then we get to those retirements earlier on in the race. Jonathan Oschelin, Kleber Toffoli, Bruno Canavas, and then David Weisbeck after his contact with Bradley Philpott early on in the event. Well, focus now onto where they go next time out, because it is a very, very iconic pit lane that we have a focus on. A nice helicopter there in the background. It is, of course, going to be the Nürburgring, if memory serves me correct here with this one. So a lot of focus that they'll be having to get through. And Jay, really, when you look at pictures here right now of this track, that Grand Prix layout, it's going to be once again about qualifying, and it's going to be a difficult race to go and get those moves done.
Yeah, 100%. It's a fantastic track, and we see some great racing at this circuit each and every time we go here. So I'm looking forward to it. Should be some great racing next week, and yeah, bring it on. Bring on the Nürburgring. But I tell you what a race we saw today, and if that race next week is half as good as the one we've had here today, what a show it's going to be.
Exactly. The only place you can catch racing at the iRacing Grand Prix Series is with us here at SimSpeed TV. If you haven't had the chance already, you can like, you can share, and you can also subscribe for more amazing content brought to you by SimSpeed TV as we are making our progress over towards 7,000 subscribers on YouTube, and all of the great work that is being done on Facebook as well. You definitely want to check that out. Massive thanks, of course, has to go to the Virtual Racing School, who have been instrumental when it has come to their sponsorship of the replays of us here today. From the likes of Jay Kennedy, who's been alongside me, pulling double duty on cameras and on commentary, and myself, Jake Sperry. It's been a pleasure bringing you this action. But once again, it's the Matteo Ugolotti show. Broke away early. We didn't see much of him since because he was just that dominant. 5 in a row. Are we really starting to talk about maybe 12 straight victories here in this championship? It's not happened before. Maybe it could just happen with us here at SimSpeed TV. A lot of work to do for Oliveira, Wood and Martinez, but it is those three who look like they are the favourites to chase down all the work.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
This is very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?